We have verses 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 lined up of chapter 18 lined up for today. I'll start with verse number 3. Just give me a minute. Yeah. I will chant. त्याज्ययं दोषवदित्येके कर्म प्राहुर्मनीषिणा यज्ञदानतपः कर्म न त्याजयमिति चापरे. So, in verse 3, the verse 3 translates to some philosophers declare thus action should be abandoned as evil. Others declare that acts of sacrifice, gift and charity are synonyms here, and austerity should not be relinquished. So let's take this up word by word. Tyajayam. Tyag is relinquishment. Tyajayam becomes should be relinquished. Doshvat, which contains dosh or as evil, impurities. Iti thus, eke some, karm action, prahu declare, manishina is the philosophers, the wise people. Then the term yagya dan tap karm. So this is going to occur again. So let's take this up in detail here, and then next time we'll move without the detailed explanation. Yag dan tap karm. So yag is yajna, dan is gift, tap is austerities, karm is act. So yag dan tap karma becomes acts of sacrifice, gift, and austerity. Na not tyajyam should be abandoned or relinquished. Iti thus cha and apare others. So we translate it to grammatically correct English. It becomes some philosophers declare thus action should be abandoned as evil. Others declare that acts of sacrifice, gift, charity, and austerity should not be relinquished. So let's chant it together. त्याजयं दोषवदित्येके कर्म प्राहुर्मनीषिणा यज्ञदानतपः कर्म न त्याज्यमिति चापरे. So in this verse, Lord Krishna is bringing out the two philosophies or the two schools of thought with regard to action. So the point we are talking about action in this verse, and with respect to action, there are two viewpoints. One set believes that all action should be abandoned as being evil, and so hence should not be done. The second school believes that the acts of sacrifice or yajna, charity, dan, and austerity, tap, should not be abandoned. So, see, the first part of the verse says that is the first declaration that all actions should be abandoned as evil. If we just think about it, this is more relevant to a advanced spiritual seeker actually, who's at the threshold of self realization. So for such a person, the only activity remaining is actually meditation on that reality and to merge with that reality. And if you've read the life history of Buddha, because that is more in the current it's more closer to us, you would see that towards the end, when he had attained the state of nirvana, he did not speak, or he just laid and hardly ate. So that is the state of a person who is uh, at that final level of just crossing over. So this applies to advanced spiritual seekers who are on the threshold of attaining Brahman. The second declaration, that acts of sacrifice, charity, and austerity should not be abandoned, refers to less advanced spiritual seekers like me and you, And for us, what is relevant is that these acts should be, we should be doing these acts. And we read in chapter 17, Shraddhatre Vibhag Yog, how to, what is the sattvic mode in which to conduct these acts of sacrifice, charity, and austerity. And the gist of it is that sacrifice or yajna should be done in the spirit of service, charity, dan, in the spirit of sharing, and austerity, tap, to conserve and channelize our energies towards the goal that we have set. And in the final stages of our spiritual journey, this becomes the goal, the highest goal for mankind or humankind, which is attaining the self. Now, all these practices of sacrifice, charity, and tap essentially render our mind calm, poised, and equanimous. So, to that extent, they help us purify ourselves so that we are able to sit for meditation. And hence, they should not be given up. So, that is the second school of thought. Moving on to verse number 4. निश्चयं शृणु मे तत्र त्यागे भरतसत्तमा त्यागो हि पुरुषव्याघ्र त्रिविधि सम्प्रकीर्तितः. So Lord Krishna says, hear from me my conclusion about tyag, or abandonment and relinquishment. O Bharat Sattam, name for Arjun, we'll discuss in detail. Tyag has been declared to be threefold. O Purush Vyagra. So, Purush Vyagra is another name for Arjun. So, let's take this up word by word. Nischayam, certainly. Shrinu, here. Me, my. Tatra, here. Tyage. So, tyag is relinquishment. Tyage becomes on relinquishment. Bharat Sattam, name for Arjun. Tyag, relinquishment. He verily, Purush Vyagra is name for Arjun. Trividhi, threefold. Samprakirtitah has been declared. So, hear from me my conclusion about Tyag or abandonment. O Bharat Sattam, Tyag has been declared to be threefold. O Purush Vyagra. So, let's chant it together. निश्चयं शृणु मे तत्र त्यागे भरतसत्तमा त्यागो हि पुरुषव्याघ्र त्रिविधि सम्प्रकीर्तितः. So see, in verse 1 of this chapter, Arjun had sought clarification for the two terms renunciation, sannyas, and tyag, which we are translating to relinquishment or abandonment. These both were explained by the Lord in verse number 2. So, sannyas was giving up or relinquishing desire ridden actions, and tyag was giving up the fruit of actions, right? So, these were explained in verse number 2, which we just recapped. Then in verse number 3, the Lord presented two schools of thought about action as to whether we should act, or one and the other school of thought which said we should not act. And now Lord Krishna is presenting the final conclusion in the discussion of these 2 points of views that were covered in verse number 3 that we just did with regard to action. And exactly what is to be abandoned, right? So Krishna is requesting Arjun to listen to the same. And subsequently, now in the subsequent verses, we are going to talk of tyag, which is tyag is what? Tyag is giving up of the fruit of action. And we are not going to talk too much about sannyas. Why is that so? If someone can hazard a guess on this one? Or actually, it's not a guess, we read about it in chapter 5. Anyone would like to take a call on this? Okay, I see no takers. So let me say, let me elaborate this. Tyag is the cause and sannyas is the effect, right? So once we do tyag, sannyas will follow. Like when there are no clouds and the sun is there, the shadow is always following us, right? During the daytime. And you may recollect in chapter 5 what we had broadly covered, that as a seeker, we start on the path of karma yoga, or as a yogi, when we are doing actions to seeking union with that Paramatman. And the way to act was covered exhaustively in chapter 3, so that we start shedding our vasanas and desires. Consequently, what happens to the seeker is that our mind becomes quietened and we start becoming introverted, and we start withdrawing and renouncing the world. So this automatically happens, right? And now, because we are not bothered so much, the world does not excite us as much or agitate us as much as it did before we started our journey, spiritual journey. We are available more for contemplation on that Paramatman, the reality, God, and one is called a sannyasi in this state. So, following the path of action, and one of the things was that give up the fruit of action in that path of action, renunciation or sannyas automatically follows. And of course, then we had continued with that thing that once we become a sannyasi, then we move on to the path of jnana yoga, the path of knowledge. And so we read the scriptures more and we listen to the gurus and we start meditating on what is being said. So we reach the threshold of self realization, and then one is called a jnani or enlightened the person. So tyag is the cause and sannyas is the effect. This means that if we understand tyag, which is what essentially giving up the fruit of action, and implement it in our lives, sannyas will follow. We will automatically become sannyasis. And so this is one thing. The second point that the verse is bringing out is the use of adjectives or names for Arjuna, Bharat, Sattam, and Purushvyagra, right? To make any interaction between two set of people meaningful, motivational, and inspiring, mutual respect and recognition is very, very important. You may recollect in verse number 1, when Arjun was posing his queries, Arjun had referred to Lord Krishna by 3 names, praising, which actually implicitly praised him. The terms used were Mahabaho, or mighty armed, powerful one, Rishikesh, Lord of the senses, Keshani, Keshanish Sudan, right? Or slayer of the demon, Keshi. In this verse, Lord Krishna is using names for Arjuna. The names used are Bharat Sattam, which means best of the Bharatas. Or it means that Krishna considers Arjun the most important or the most outstanding one of the Bharat race. Purush Vyagra, Vyagra is a tiger. Purush means man. So Purush Vyagra becomes tiger amongst men, implying a valiant and skillful warrior. And this is, it also imports that Arjun was a commander, a leader, and a chief. So even between the guru and the shishya, it is important to admire and respect each other so that we motivate everyone. Both the teacher and the shishya are motivated. The teacher to give the knowledge and Shishya to receive the knowledge. Then the Lord goes on to say that what we did in chapter 17, just as Shraddha, faith, food, ahar, you may recollect, sacrifice, yajna, austerity, tap, and charity, dan, is threefold, and which is the threefolds are sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. This was covered in chapter 17. So is tyag, or relinquishment, abandonment of the fruit of action of three kinds. So that is verse number 4. Let's move on to verse number 5. यज्ञदान तपः कर्म न त्याज्यं कार्यमेव तत् यज्ञोदानं तपश्चैव पावनानि मनीषिणाम्. So acts of sacrifice, gift, and austerity should not be relinquished. They indeed should be performed. Sacrifice, gift, and austerity are indeed purifiers of the wise. Taking this up word by word, so Yagya, Dan, Tap, Karm, this had appeared earlier in verse 3. We had covered it in the detail there. So it's acts of sacrifice, gift, and austerity. Na, not. Tyajyam should be relinquished. Karyam should be performed. Ev, indeed, tat, that, yagya, sacrifice, dan, gift, tap, austerity, cha, and ev, indeed, pavanani, purifiers, manishinam, of the wise. So, acts of sacrifice, gift, and austerity should not be relinquished. They indeed should be performed. Sacrifice, gift, and austerity are indeed purifiers of the wise. So let's chant it together. यज्ञदान तपः कर्म न त्याज्यं कार्यमेव तत् यज्ञोदानं तपश्चैव पावनानि मनीषिणाम्. So, what Lord Krishna is doing is that he's endorsing the second viewpoint, the second school of thought, which said that the acts of sacrifice or yajna, charity, dan, and tapha should not be abandoned. So, verse number 3 of this chapter, which we just did, that the first school of thought said that all action should be abandoned as evil. And we had discussed that it applies to an advanced spiritual seeker who is at the threshold of self realization. The second declaration, acts of sacrifice, charity, and austerity should not be abandoned, refers to a less advanced spiritual seeker. Now, see what's happening is, now let's come back to the setting. We are in the middle of the battlefield. Arjun rightfully should be waging the war, but he is not waging the war. At the same time, Arjun is not a renunciate. He is a Kshatriya warrior, right? So, assessment of Arjuna by Krishna is, as a Kshatriya warrior, Arjun is typically a man of action. He is not introverted or given to study, contemplation, and meditation. So the first school of thought does not apply to Arjuna. And if we recollect, from from the beginning, Arjun has laid down his bow and arrow, and he doesn't want to wage the war because of his attachment to he sees his family and loved ones on the other side of the battlefield as foes and enemies whom he's going to kill. And in chapter 3, which was the Karma Yoga, where he was being motivated to act, the chapter had started with, so verse 1 of that chapter, Arjuna asked that if you consider, he's talking to Krishna, so and he's asking Krishna that if you consider knowledge superior to action, then why do you engage me in this horrible, terrible action? Right? Because chapter 2 had ended with Arjun, with Krishna saying that path of knowledge is way superior to path of action. So Arjun had, even at that point of time, at the start of chapter 3, asked this question, that why are you asking me to do this terrible action when you say, you yourself are saying that path of knowledge is superior. So why should I be doing this horrible action? So Arjun is actually trying to avoid that particular act of waging the war against his loved ones, so, or it is doing, he wants to avoid that action of something distasteful. It happens so often with us that we avoid things which we don't want to do. Eh, okay, the setting is more dramatic for Arjuna, it's less dramatic for us, so if we don't want to get up early in the morning, we will try and not to do, avoid it as much as possible. Okay, now, in answer, I just want to continue to these things, because as we are ending the Bhagavad Gita, the paths, and what is being said should now be falling in place, at least mentally, even if we are not able to implement it, or we are taking time to implement it, but we should be clear that where are we going wrong. So, as a reply to this question of Arjun's, Lord Krishna in verse 3 of chapter 3 had said that in this world there's a twofold path, as I have said before. Okay, now when we come to twofold path, firstly, you may recollect we have been using the Shreya path and the Priya path, right? I hope all of you remember. Priya path is when we move out into the world and chasing our organs of sense organs, right? So that is the Priya path, which takes us to fleeting instant gratification of senses. The Shreya path is what brings us towards that supreme reality. It pulls us inward, makes us introspective. Now, on this path, there are two segments. On the Shreya path, there are two segments. This is what the Lord is talking about. One is the path of knowledge for the Sankhya or the contemplative people or the wise ones, and the path of action for the active, for the yogis, for I think for 80% of the population, humankind that we see. So, path of action for the active people. And then you may recollect in this Karma Yoga chapter, Lord had made intellectual and emotional appeal to Arjun for action. So Arjun has been assessed as a person of action. The second point is spirituality starts from where we are. From this point, the way I am, I have to start purifying myself. I cannot say that after I finish reading the Bhagavad Gita, and out of the 108 Upanishads, if I have read five of them, then only can I purify myself. No, that's not correct. We have to start the process of our mental, intellectual purification from where we are. And this we do by learning how to live in the world. So we have to first master the art of living in the world, and then we talk about sannyas, which is leaving the world. We cannot start by running away, going to the Himalayas, sitting in a forest. We cannot start by running away from life, from world. We have to face the world. The thing is, we have to have the right attitude. And as we start maturing, or maturing here means as we start this journey on inwards on the Shreya path, we start automatically withdrawing from the world. We become contemplative. And as we become more contemplative, our inquiries about what is the essence, the true nature, God become deeper and deeper. And when we are involved with this as a goal, we are actually non available to activity, and we do all our obligatory actions, but we are disengaged from activity. It does not agitate us. The fruit of action actually does not bother us. We do what we can to the best of our ability. So we outgrow the world. The world does not affect us. The world has lost its hold over us. Like just the way as the child outgrows the toys as the child grows. So, through the path of action or the yoga of action, Karma Yoga, we start shedding our vasanas, and then we gradually move towards Jnana Yoga, which culminates in contemplation, meditation, and realization of the self. So, for Arjun, who is a person of action, Krishna's advises that these three disciplines must be practiced. And of course, chapter 17 told us how to do these three acts of yagya, tap, and dan. Now, we'll just take it up briefly here. Yagya is the capacity to give up or to sacrifice. Now, this works when we work for a goal. We set a goal for ourselves and we work towards that. Setting of the goal and working towards the goal, we maintain a balance and refrain from mental and physical indulgences. So, even if it is my goal to win the Wimbledon title, I will ensure that I remain in line, focused towards that goal. So, it can be a worldly goal, it can be the absolute goal. So, we grow spiritually through yajna. And yajna action is always done in the spirit of service and sacrifice. Sacrifice is towards a higher cause. So when you are entering the Wimbledon championship, it could be just a personal goal that I should get the Wimbledon title. It could also be that I would like my country uh, to, have a Wimbledon title. So there's a difference in the two approaches. So whatever the way we look at the goal is very, very important. It's the same thing that, there was this construction going on and people were breaking stones uh, outside that a temple was coming up. So outside the building, people were breaking, they were hired, they were employed to break stones. And so someone went and asked the first person that, what are you doing? He says, I'm breaking these stones. This is my job. I'm paid so much. They hardly pay me. And but anyway, I don't have any other job. So I sit here and do it. Second guy tells that, yeah, it's fine. I mean, they're paying me. I'm happy. And I'm breaking stone. The third one says, we are building this temple, this building, and I'm breaking stones for that building. The fourth one says that we are building a temple. It's Lord Ram's temple, and I'm providing service by breaking stones for the temple that is going to come up. Now look at the difference in the attitude of the people. Each one is doing the same thing. Each one is getting paid the same amount, but the happiness and the joy with which people are acting is completely different. Right. So now when we come to setting of the ideals, we can choose limited ideals which are directed in the world or the absolute ideal of self-realization. And the technique, the setting of how to convert all our actions into yajna was covered in chapter 4, the 12 yajnas that we had covered in the verses 25 to 35. Now, it is only through service and sacrifice for a higher, non selfish goal that we become free from attachment. So, this is about yajna. Tapaha. Tap is what? Austerity or self control. That means controlling the actions and sense pleasures to conserve and direct our energies towards the set ideal. So, the same Wimbledon uh, example, the player conserves their energy. The players actually, the entire gamut of players will conserve their energy and restrict it to the tournament. And they will be very, very focused for that. So it is a consistency of purpose. And this self control is tap. So, tap is determined, concentrated effort to conserve energy and direct it the towards a higher goal. So, it can be a worldly goal or it can be the spiritual goal, which is attainment of God. Our scriptures now say that without purifying the body through austerity, one cannot reach the final stages of yoga. Yoga is union with the self. And of course, the sattvic tap austerities were detailed at the level of the body, speech, and mind in chapter 17, the previous chapter. You can refer to verses 14, 15, 16, and 17. Then we come to dan or gift. So, dan or charity is giving or gifting with compassion. The important thing is that we recognize the other's needs and extend help without expecting anything in return. So, if I'm giving 100 rupees, I expect a favor in return. That is not gift or charity. It is a barter system. You're giving money, you expect a service. It's not gifting. And we had discussed in chapter 17 that humans must use their faculty of discrimination to ensure that their gifts or charities reach the deserving recipients. And you can revise that part where we had talked about the, tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic dan. And also, we had covered that the gift should always cater to the recipient and not the donor. Therefore, gifting should always be done after some inquiry and evaluating the recipient's needs. So, sacrifice in the spirit of service, charity in the spirit of sharing, and tap or austerity to conserve and channelize our energies towards a set ideal should be done. And what the Lord is saying, that they are the purifiers. All these practices purify. That means they render our mind calm, poised, and equanimous so that we focus on our current action. And also, as the mind is purified, we are more and more qualified to reach the final stages of meditation. So, the three practices of sacrifice, charity, and tap, they are great purifiers of our internal self, and therefore they should not be given up. Coming to the last verse for the day, verse number 6. एतान्यपि तु कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा फलानि च कर्तव्यानीति मे पार्थ निश्चितं मत्तमोत्तमम्. But even these actions should be performed leaving aside attachment and fruits. This, O Partha, is my firm and highest conviction. Word by word. Ethani, these, api, even, tu, but, karmani, actions, sangam, attachment, tyakta, leaving, renouncing, phalani, fruits, cha, and kartavyani should be performed. Iti thus may my Partha is named for Arjun, son of Prithu. Nishyatam, firm. Matam, conviction. Uttamam, highest. So, but even these actions should be performed leaving aside attachment and fruits. This, O Partha, is my firm and highest conviction. Let's chant it together. एतान्यपि तु कर्माणि सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा फलानि च कर्तव्यानीति मे पार्थ निश्चितं मत्तमोत्तमम्. So these acts of sacrifice, yajna, charity, dan, and austerity, tap must be pursued. Lord Krishna says that these are the best conclusions I have arrived at. This is my conviction. So the God is speaking to us. These three acts should not be given up. However, while doing these acts of sacrifice, charity, and austerity, we must give up attachment and the fruit thereof. So these have to be selfless acts. with no returns expected. It is then that they become the greatest purifiers. Now, this is nothing new that is being said in this verse. Right from chapter 2, where the Lord starts with the sermon, repeatedly we have been Lord Krishna has been talking about giving up attachment, and also the fruit of action. Some of the verses I'm quoting, but you can go back. We have said it, and Lord Krishna has been saying it n number of times. Okay, the most important verse where we start with this is verse 47 of chapter 2, which was Karmanya Padikaraste, which is one of the famous verses also of the Bhagwad Gita, where Krishna, which translates to, your right is to action only, never to the fruits. Let not the fruit of action be your motive, not let your attachment be to inaction. Now, these two things, the fruit of action and attachment, these were, if you remember, and I think most of you did chapter 17. So, these were the common attributes and distinctions for yag, dan, and tap to become sattvic. So, when we expect no returns, when we don't expect a fruit of the action, that is when the yagya, dan, or tap becomes sattvic. Now, what are the hazards of attachment and fruit of action? Firstly, what is attachment? Attachment, we are all a baggage of likes and dislikes. So, attachments are a baggage of our past. They're the likes and dislikes that affect our present action. So, if I don't want to get up early in the morning, there is no way I'll listen to the alarm. At the first go, I'll set up 3 alarms, because that is not my nature. I mean, I don't want to get up early in the morning. If I do not like a particular task, I will not get up. And if you recollect the famous ladder of fall that we have been quoting again in numerous times in as we are proceeding with the sessions, again was part of the Sankhya Yoga chapter 2 and verses 62 to 63. I will translate for you, read the translation. A man musing on objects develops attachment for them. From attachment arises desire. If it is met, more desires arise. If it is not met, delusion. So it leads to anger, which leads to delusion, which leads to loss of memory, which results in loss of intellect and to our destruction. And also, one more verse I would like to quote, which is the verse number 34 of chapter 3, the Karma Yoga. Attachment and aversion. So, basically, likes and dislikes. So, attachment and aversion for the objects of the senses abide in the senses. Let no one come under the dominion of these two, for they are one's enemies. They are enemies. So the verse ends there. They're enemies because the attachment leads us to desires. Attachment and dislike are two sides of the same coin because they make us act according in the same manner. And so this is attachment. Fruit of action, as we already discussed when we were doing verse number 2, is the anxiety for the future. We must always remember that future is the result of our current action. Worry about the future always mars or affects, degenerates our current action. Now, the nature is that while acting, we continuously vacillate or slip either into the past with our baggage, so likes and dislikes, attachments and aversions, or we start worrying about the future. And when we had done chapter 3, the technique of perfect action was discussed that clip the worries of the past, the anxiety for the future, and plunge into the current activity without the least excitement. Vigat Jwar was the word that was used in chapter 3. That meant without fever. So don't be fervent in the current activities. Go calmly. As the British say, na, be calm and carry on. So that is the kind of approach that we should take. And in the current scenario, Krishna finds that Arjun needs to act. This is a vital need for Arjun to pick up his bow and arrow and wage the war. And since chapter 2, this is what the Lord has been advising Arjun in various ways, as we have seen, through knowledge, through persuasion, every which way the Lord is trying Arjun to understand and act. So, with that, we conclude our today's session.